How satisfied are you with your sexual energy? What do you desire? Are you comfortable expressing your desires? And when I ask that, I mean, are you comfortable acknowledging to yourself what your desires are? And then what about with a partner? What would need to change in order for you to be more sexually satisfied? Hi, this is Sara Russell. I'm a relationship coach, dancer, and Taoist. In every episode, I'll be talking about psychedelics, well-being, or the human experience, and this one is on how to increase your sexual energy, or it's at least part one of how to increase your sexual energy. I was at a potluck with my good friends, and we were in the middle of our creme brulee when all of a sudden the conversation turned to being multi-orgasmic. And we were having a conversation about some people who were having an easier time being multi-orgasmic, some people who had never experienced it, some people who were having a hard time orgasming at all. And one of my friends decided to share her experience, and she was talking about how she did it. And, she got to the point where she was like, and then you orgasm. And everybody leaned forward and was like, and then what? How do you become multi-orgasmic? And she leans back and she deadpans us and she goes, you just keep going. Okay, lucky for her that it was so natural in her body to be multi-orgasmic, right? But what about people that aren't naturally multi-orgasmic? What about people that have a hard time orgasming at all? What about if you don't even want to center orgasm in your sexual practice? Like if that's something that if it happens, it's great, but you're actually on this whole other pleasure journey that doesn't need to end in orgasm in order to be satisfying. So as we enter into this conversation, and we're talking about cultivating sexual energy, I want to be really clear that this is about your journey and what you want. And so when I'm talking about increasing sexual energy, I actually want to broaden that. And it's not just about increasing the quantity, but it's also about increasing the quality so that you're cultivating the kind of sexual energy that you want. So what is that? What kind of sexual energy do you want? And is it being dictated by a cultural standard, or is it something where you've actually turned towards yourself to have a deep inquiry about your precious vessel's preferences? And then why do you want to cultivate that particular sexual energy? So there can be lots of reasons for cultivating our sexual energy. That can be maybe you want to have a fertility practice because you're trying to conceive, you want to make a baby. Maybe you want to retain your sexual energy because you actually want to funnel it into some kind of creative or artistic project. Maybe you want to retain your sexual energy because you want to sublimate it and have some kind of spiritual practice where you're transforming the energy into something more sublime. So there are lots of different reasons why we want to cultivate our sexual energy. But regardless of why we're trying to increase our sexual energy, it's important to start with a really good foundation. And in a previous incarnation, I had the pleasure and the privilege of working in the same office as Rachel Carlton Abrams, who co-wrote the book, The Multiorgasmic Woman with Mantak Chia. I also attended several workshops with Rachel, where she talked about Taoist sexual secrets and how we can transform our sexual energy to create a more satisfying life. And in her book, The Multiorgasmic Woman, she has a series of questions that I just think are so perfect for starting your sexual journey when you're asking yourself, what kind of sexual experiences do I want to have? What do I want the energy to feel like? How do I want to express that energy? How much energy is enough? What's the right particular blend for me? And so her questions in order are, what erotic qualities do you want in your life? How often do you want those qualities? What keeps you from having those qualities as often as you would like? What's the consequence of not having those qualities? And what will you experience if you do get to experience those erotic qualities? It's a really great series of questions to have some kind of compass. Even if your answer to any of those questions is, I don't know, at least your starting point is then, I don't know, and I want to explore. Or maybe you have some kind of idea. And if you have some kind of idea, then you go and you explore and you experiment and you get more information and you go, yeah, more of that. That felt really good. Or maybe you're in the middle of an experience and all of a sudden you decide, this is not the kind of experience I want to be having. I actually want to shift this. I thought this was what I wanted, but now that I'm here, it's nowhere near as satisfying as I built it up in my mind. So I actually need something else. So again, this is all about a journey. And sexual energy, it is expansive and it is vibrant and it is kinetic and charged, which means it's also mutable. It can change. And I want you to hold for yourself this ability to be flexible and adaptable and mutable as you're on your sexual journey, as you're playing with your sexual energy, allowing yourself to give and revoke consent at any time, both with yourself and with any partners you may be experiencing this practice with, because this is going to be an unfolding and it's going to change. It's going to change whether you're having a self-cultivation practice, which is what the Taoists refer to as masturbation, or what they call masturbation is self-cultivation, whether you're doing this with a partner, whether you're doing this with multiple partners. This is all about you discovering your pleasure preferences. Okay, so part of that good foundation is turning towards, with tender loving care, with self-love, what's your relationship with your body? So how much appreciation do you feel for your body and the way that it feels and the way that it looks and the way that it moves and the way that it engages with other bodies? Like, how do you feel in your body? And then what kind of criticisms do you have for your body? And all of those questions, the way that it looks, the way that it feels, the way that it moves. You know, how much condemnation are you experiencing versus how much celebration in this body that you're in? And obviously we live in a culture that shames the shit out of our bodies, right? And it doesn't matter what kind of body you're in, you are likely to have experienced some kind of not enoughness or too muchness in your perception of your body, of yourself. So really being able to recognize that we have these cultural indoctrinations that make us feel like our bodies aren't good enough for some reason. I wish I could remember who gave this quote, but it was something along the lines of, this idea that we think our bodies are supposed to be beautiful by this cultural standard. Is that even the function of being in a body? And if being beautiful isn't the function of being in a body, then what? And I would say part of that is to experience the world in a pleasurable way, in a sensation-based, loving, sexual way. That's part of why we're here. And while I'm talking about why we're here and sexual preference, I do want to say that when I'm talking about your sexual experience, sexuality, like so much of life, exists on a spectrum, exists on a continuum. And so whether you identify as asexual or megasexual, whether you don't really enjoy having sex with other people, or it's more like a massage, or you enjoy sex, but only when it's that self-cultivation with yourself and you don't actually want to do it with somebody else, or you're all the way on the other end of the spectrum. Some people identify as hypersexual. That can be a little bit of a medicalized term. So some people prefer megasexual for this kind of really robust, large expression of sexual energy, where you're thinking about sex, you want to be having sex, you like having sex with lots of people. There's this whole spectrum of experiences. And as you're going through your sexual cultivation practice, it's in your hands, or whatever else you want to be putting on your body and experiencing. Feathers, toys, toes, whatever it happens to be. So this is really about you and not some kind of script or standard that you're going to be following in order to try to check the box and great, now I have the sexual experience that I was quote unquote supposed to have. This is about your personal expression around all of this. Okay, so now how are we experiencing pleasure in our bodies, right? So there was a study that was done where, and this has to do with cultural indoctrination and gender training. But this idea that if you are a man, that statistically you are you have a higher percentage of having a first person experience, meaning you're experiencing it through your five senses. You're in your body, you're feeling your tongue, you're looking through your eyes. Whereas women are really gender trained to have a third person experience, where often they're floating outside their bodies, watching the scene, right? How do I look? What do I sound like? Is the other person enjoying it? And I do not mean to in any way imply that that's how all men experience sex and that's how all women experience sex. Obviously, women have first-person experiences. Obviously, men have third-person experiences. But there is this gender training that often some people are having an experience and some people are offering a performance. And I just want to say, as far as this experience versus performance thing is concerned, for all my voyeurists and exhibitionists out there, I know, right? Why can't it be both an experience and a performance? Delightful, yes. And also, whether or not it's experience, whether or not it's a performance, it's great when that can be a choice rather than just you're defaulting to, oh, I'm habitually having an experience, or I'm defaulting to habitually enacting a performance in some kind. Bringing enough conscious awareness to your sexual acts that you can choose whether it's one or the other or both, or you're switching in between, so that like it's this choose your own adventure that you're on. Regardless of your viewpoint, whether it's a third person or a first person, do you have a loving perspective towards yourself? Do you touch yourself in a loving way? Does it come from this place of self-regard? Because everybody is capable and deserving of both giving and receiving pleasure. Okay, so body shame and performance anxiety are some of the ways that we can diminish our sexual energy, right? Other obstacles to cultivating our sexual energy include depression, stress, anxiety. These are all of the things that can dim desire, right? So when we're talking about cultivating our sexual energy, we're not going straight to the genitals, right? We're not going like straight to orgasm. This idea that like it's so linear and it's like a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am kind of experience, although quickies are also delicious. Okay, but being able to go, okay, I need to turn towards myself and maybe work through some of my body shame. Maybe I need to get some kind of assistance with my depression or my anxiety, some kind of outside support. Not bypassing those things because, you know, as I was saying, sexual energy is this multiplying energy. It's this energy that can really ramp up and rev up. If we're experiencing a lot of body shame or depression or anxiety, sexual energy can increase all of those feelings in our body. And then that's not fun for anybody. So we really want to be able to, again, like have this really clean baseline foundation where we're taking care of ourselves across the holistic body, the whole body, and not just focusing on our bits. So thinking to yourself, what increases your chi? And when I say chi, I mean life force energy, right? What puts a sparkle in your eye, a bounce in your step? And what depletes you? You know, stressful conversations, a job that you hate going to, not getting enough sleep, eating shitty food. And again, I'm not going to tell you what food is shitty for you. Like you get to decide that, like what makes you happy, what gives you joy, and what depletes you. That is all about you and your preferences. So before we get into any of like the sexy yumminess, I really want you to think about 2 things that you could do in the next 24 to 48 hours that would replenish some of your chi, replenish some of your life force energy, and see if there's something that you can stop, like one thing that you could stop that depletes you. So don't watch the news segment or hold off on the challenging conversation or put a time limit on how long you're willing to stay over at work so that you can start building back some of your baseline chi so that when you're building your sexual energy, it's coming from this place where you've really taken care of yourself rather than just bypassed all the things that aren't working. Okay, now when you're thinking about sexy time, where are you picturing yourself? Outside in the woods, up against a tree, just off the trail? I know, me too. Just kidding, but not really. You're probably picturing a bedroom and a bed. And there's a good reason for that, because incredible sexual expression and cultivation of sexual energy starts with a good night's sleep. So in traditional Chinese medicine, sex is considered jing, sexual energy, and sexual energy is associated with the kidneys. And what are the kidneys associated with? Sleep. So getting enough sleep is what replenishes your kidney energy, right? So kidney energy is considered the deep, watery energy of the body. It's in the bones, and the way that water will find the deepest point. It's that deep, deep energy within the body. So it's that deep, restful sleep that we're trying to cultivate. And by getting a good night's sleep, we're really replenishing our kidney chi. Now, what are things that trash our kidney chi? Guess what? Coffee and caffeine. It's that negative impact on the adrenals, right? We have this wired and tired culture where we're trying to get to work. Did you have time to have sex with yourself or a partner before you got to work? I hope so. if that's what you want. If it's not what you want, then I hope you didn't get any pressure to do something you didn't want to do. Okay, but so you're waking up and then you're pounding back a cup of coffee so that you can wire yourself up so you can go be a good worker bee. And then what happens when you get off work? You have a beer with your friends or a glass of wine to unwind. So that we're suppressing the energy in the body, right? So this wired with the caffeine and the coffee, this tired, we're bringing ourselves down, we're suppressing our energy in some way with the alcohol. And all of this wreaks havoc on your kidney chi. And the way that you can start nourishing your kidneys again is by getting a good night's sleep. And I have a podcast on that through Mudwater that you can listen to, how to get a good night's sleep. You can listen to that. You can also just like the basics, how many hours you need, making sure the room's dark enough, making sure it's cool enough. Yeah, if you didn't have time to listen to the whole podcast that I did on this. Okay, so we're still kind of in this preparation mode, right? This is why I said this was part 1 of this series of cultivating your sexual energy, because we're still just laying the groundwork. We're still just like laying the foundation for all of this. Because again, sexual energy has the power to multiply. So if you're anxious, if you're tired, if you're stressed, if there are things that you don't like, I don't want to amplify all of that in your body. So for part 1, this is just about clearing. Get a good night's sleep. See if you can let go of some of the body shame. See if you can let go of one of the things that's depleting. See if you can do something that's replenishing. Take care of yourselves and ponder those questions. And like I said, allow them to ebb and flow through your body. Allow there to be curiosity. There's no right or wrong answers here. Just exploration. Just your precious self figuring out what your preferences are. If you'd like more information, you can find me on Instagram at Be The Radical Way. You can also go to trendswithbenefits.com and check out all of our written work on psychedelics, well-being, and the human experience. Take care.